This is Champagne, and we can't start talking about Champagne without first referencing the godfather himself, Dom Perignon. Dom Perignon was born in 1638. He was a French Benedictine monk, and in 1668 he became the cellar of Saint-Pierre des Hautevillers in the Champagne region of France. Although Don is considered the godfather of Champagne, he wasn't the first person to blend grapes. He wasn't the first person to make wine sparkle, nor was he the first person to make white wine from black grapes. What he did do was combine all of those things and set the path for the modern day Champagne that we know today. So voila, here we are. The Champagne region lies about 100 miles east of Paris and is comprised of about 85,000 vineyard acres spread across 319 different villages. The region is traditionally split into 5 major subregions: the Montagne des Reims, the Val de la Marne, the Côte des Blancs, the Côte des Bar, and the Côte des Saisons. The Montagne des Reims is arguably the best known and most important region of Champagne. The city of Reims is home to some of the greatest champagne houses in the world, such as Veuve Clicquot, Pommery, Ruinart, and Charles Heidsieck. Next up is the Val de la Marne, which is known for its production of black grapes. Pinot Meunier is the most heavily planted, followed by Pinot Noir. The soil compositions between sites vary, and the region is only home to 2 Grand Cru villages. The Côte des Blancs is considered the second most important region. Just south of the town of Épernay, the Côte des Blancs gets its name for its ability to produce some of the finest Chardonnay France has to offer. In fact, around 95% of the plantings here are Chardonnay. The area holds 6 Grand Cru villages, and the town of Épernay is home to some other great champagne houses, such as Perrier-Jouët, Paul Roger, and Moet Chandon. It's easy to think of the Côte des Bar as an island between Champagne and Burgundy. It's located about 2 hours south of Épernay, and the soil is a composition of Kimmeridgian marl and Portlandian limestone. Pinot Noir comprises about 90% of the vines planted in this region. And last but not least, the Côte des Saisons. I like to think of this region as an extension of the Côte des Blancs. The region is largely dominated by Chardonnay, and due to the southeastern aspect, the grapes can achieve a higher level of ripeness and tend to be a little bit fruitier than their northern counterpart. And now, brothers and sisters, it's time. You knew this moment was coming, the subject that evokes fear in the hearts of all young wine scholars. But it's actually pretty simple. It's the Méthode Champenoise! And we're gonna do it in under 1 minute. It all starts here. Step 1. The base wine, also known as the cuvée. Grapes are picked and fermented to dryness, then the wines are blended to create the typical house style. The second step is known as tirage. Yeast and sugars are then added to that base wine, bottled and sealed with a crown cap. Step 3 is the most important part. It's the second fermentation. This fermentation happens inside the bottle, and it creates CO2, which gets trapped inside, and that's how we get the bubbles we know and love today. The yeast will undergo autolysis and die, and will remain inside the bottle. After that is step 4, aging. According to the champagne laws, a minimum of 15 months of aging is required for all non-vintage champagnes, and for vintage champagnes, the minimum aging time is actually 36 months. Step 5 will be riddling. The bottle is placed at a downward angle and the wine is turned for days on end throughout the aging cycle so that the dead yeast cells can settle and collect at the neck of the bottle. Step 6 is disgorgement. This is the process of removing that sediment from the bottle. The bottles are placed into a freezing liquid which causes the yeast and dead sediment to freeze into what's called a plug. The crown cap is then quickly popped off and that frozen plug shoots out of the neck of the pressurized bottle. And the last step, step 7, is dosage. A mixture of sugar and wine is then added to fill the bottles, and the wine is corked, wired, and labeled. And to wrap everything up, we have the champagne sweetness scale. Depending on the level of dosage, the wine will exist on a spectrum anywhere from bone dry to quite sweet. Starting from the driest, we have Brut Nature, which is bone dry in style and can contain anywhere from 0 to 3 grams of sugar per liter of wine. Extra Brut is also considered bone dry, but can have up to 6 grams per liter residual sugar. Brut is the most common form of champagne on the market and can range between 0 and 12 grams per liter of residual sugar. Extra dry is fruity and has a perceptible sweetness on the palate. Extra dry clocks in at around 12 to 17 grams per liter. Dry champagne, counterintuitively, is actually considered to be off-dry at 17 to 32 grams per liter residual sugar. Demi-sec is probably the most common sweet style you'll encounter, ranging from 32 to 50 grams per liter. This is quite sweet. And lastly, Doux is the apex of sweetness, allowing for any level of sweetness above 50 grams of sugar per liter of wine. And ladies and gentlemen, that about wraps it up for champagne. Thanks for sticking around, and if you'd like to, please feel free to like and subscribe to the channel. Also check out my Instagram for dank wine memes. Have a great day, and go out and enjoy some champagne.